What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of 101 Sports and Cards. As always, I'm Nathan Holloway, and with me, Jared Dresch.
What's going on? I may sound a little, crappy. It's because I feel like crap. So no angry rants today for me. Shock.
Thank you.
Continue.
We'll start off in the NFL. I know I told you guys a few weeks ago that we would not be hitting the NFL completely hard, but there was some interesting news. The Rams may be trying to move Matthew Stafford. There's multiple teams interested. The Cleveland Browns are one of them that I saw, which is surprising since they still have Deshaun Watson and, worst trade in NFL history, in my opinion. I also saw where, the Steelers, I believe the Steelers are interested, which would be a solid move. There's a lot of people that I heard today on ESPN where they want them to go to the Colts. I don't think the Colts are going to be really interested in Stafford. Overall, Sean McVay wants to keep Stafford in LA, but it's looking more and more unlikely that that's going to happen. Stafford, he's towards the end of his career. If I was him, I'd want to stay in LA. They have a good enough team. They are trying to trade away Cooper Kupp, which is going to be a huge loss for them, especially if they're unable to find a replacement, although with his salary gone, they could easily sign a younger and solid wide receiver. But I don't get why the Rams actually want to get rid of him. Besides, I know Stafford's taken up a huge contract, but they also said that they see Jimmy Garoppolo. I've seen multiple reports say that they see Jimmy Garoppolo as a perfect bridge guy.
I don't know about that.
I don't either. Dude led the 49ers to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And people just think he's great.
That team was great.
Yeah.
And they lost.
So do you think they should get rid of him or keep him? And if they get rid of him, who do you want to see him go to?
I think they should keep Stafford. The team is already kind of put together to win a championship, possibly. They got dealt the Eagles, which is arguably the toughest team in NFL.
But think about that. They were the closest team to beating the Eagles in the the Eagles blew everybody out in the playoffs in every game besides the Rams. And yes, it was a snow game.
Yeah.
But the Rams had a very good shot at winning that game if
Saquon didn't go off.
Yeah, and if Stafford wouldn't have, I still don't know what he was doing on that final throw when he threw it straight out of bounds. But just because, plus you have their defense is so young and so good, and then their offense, with guys like Puka Nacua and then
Kyron Williams, who gets a touchdown every game, it seems like.
Yeah. With the plus their offensive line is great. They should definitely keep him. I'd keep him until he retires. You're not going to find a much better guy than Stafford, especially to go to Garoppolo from him, and then I guess Stetson Bennett is the next guy if they think that he's actually gonna,
if he's ready.
Or they could also draft somebody, but I wouldn't say this class is. I was gonna go through the draft because Mel Kiper put out his first NFL mock draft. He has I completely forgot his name.
Cam Ward.
Penn State defensive end.
Oh, I have no idea.
Going first overall to the Titans, not a QB, which is very interesting. His first QB was Cam Ward, which I believe is the best. I believe he is the best quarterback in this class. I believe Jalen Milroe is second, and then Shedeur Sanders. Also, Shedeur Sanders is not throwing at the combine, which is a very interesting take for him.
Is he injured or something?
No, he's
or
not.
He just not want to do it?
He's waiting till the Colorado Pro Day to do it. Of course, the NFL Combine,
it's kind of useless.
It is basically useless.
No,
most people who go there aren't the top names, and the top names, the top names don't want to go there because if you're not good at the combine, it's going to completely tank your draft stock.
Yeah,
especially when you have pro days at your home college, where you're going to be throwing to people you actually know, not the NFL saying, "Here you go, here's this wide receiver that you've never thrown to before in your life, and this is for your future." Yeah, basically. So I'm still thinking.
People come out of it.
Yeah,
like Xavier Woolley.
Jalen Milroe is going to be one of the QBs actually throwing and going through everything. I believe he's going to have a great pro day. I think Jalen I'm not high on Jalen Milroe, but I think he's going to be. He has the tools. He still has a lot of growing up to do.
He reminds me of Jalen Hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
Just not as big and bulky.
Thanks for that Alabama comparison.
No problem.
I'm still trying to think of that Penn State guy, and I cannot think of his name. And it's making me mad. I should know it because he's, in my opinion, he's the best player in this class.
I don't know defensive people too much.
Abdul Carter. That's his name. Couldn't think of it. I was thinking Carter, but I couldn't think of it. Abdul Carter. Of course, a lot of people are up in the air between, do the Titans take quarterback first? Do the Titans take Abdul Carter to give him a pass rusher? Or do they take Travis Hunter, who at the combine
You do both?
is corner, not a wide receiver. And I believe that's going to be his position.
Yeah.
I believe whoever drafts him will
Try it.
Yeah, but he's not going to. It's not going to be like at Colorado where he's going to play every single snap because you just can't do that at the NFL level.
No.
Like he's going to be
Not
gassed.
these boys.
Yeah. There were some. The NFLPA surveys happened. The Jets players gave their owner Woody Johnson an F grade. To be honest, not really surprising. They just had a terrible season.
Yeah.
Now they're getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. They fired basically everybody during the season. They did have a great head coaching hire in Ben Johnson. Was it Ben Johnson?
I don't know.
I think it's Ben Johnson.
From the Lions?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Ben Johnson. I don't know coaches.
Who's the other one?
I don't know.
I don't think it's Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson's the Raiders. And of course, nothing's going to load. Ben Johnson's the current coach of the Chicago Bears.
And just a little off.
Yeah, because he was the Lions'
offensive.
Who was the Lions' defensive coordinator? I guess I could just look up Jets head coach. I really need to be Aaron Glenn. Names are just slipping by me today. Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn was a great hire, but the Jets have a lot of work to do. But if I was a player, I would have gave Woody Johnson F grade as well.
I would have given him like a Z.
You can't do that.
Why not?
Because
basically giving the worst thing ever.
the two teams that had the top grades in the survey were the Dolphins and the Vikings. Surprisingly, the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I'm not going to really say surprisingly the Vikings because
Played great.
Yeah.
And Kevin O'Connell's a great head coach.
that's why he won Coach of the Year. That's all for the NFL. I believe the Combine's next week. It's one of these next weeks. It's one of the first weeks of March. And then, everything after that will be preparing for the NFL draft and free agency.
Yeah.
I will have a mock draft probably a week or two before the actual NFL draft. First round. I ain't doing all 7 rounds because I don't have that kind of time. And you're just not going to do anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know like 5 people in this draft.
Thanks. It's actually a really stacked class.
Defensively?
Yes. Okay. And wide receiver wise. There's a ton of wide receivers.
Is there?
Yeah. Just not, everybody's just all in on QBs.
Yeah. That's just football for you, though.
Yeah. Moving on to the association. Some terrible news out of San Antonio for 2 different people. First off, Victor Wembanyama is set to miss the rest of the season with a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. That is the technical word for a blood clot. Yeah. The Spurs do believe that this is easily going to be, easy thing to heal. It's not going to affect the rest of his career. It's also weird that it's in his shoulder. Most people who suffer from blood clots get them in their legs. You saw Brandon Ingram. He dealt with this. You've seen quite a few basketball players deal with this. Of course, Chris Bosh was one of the ones where it did affect his career. It did end his career. But they do not believe that Wemby's is as bad as Chris Bosh's, which is a good thing for them and the Spurs.
Yeah.
And for himself.
Yeah.
And me as a fan. Because, damn.
Yeah,
I was very mad. I was very upset when I knew something was up, though. Because just watching basically the whole season, it just looked like he was gassed. Like he would play a short amount of time, and he was just gassed. And I know last year he had that problem, but that's also because it's your rookie season in the NBA. You're playing a ton of minutes compared to what he was over in France. But this season it was different, and it's not like he's not in shape.
Yeah.
He's in great shape. And then people were saying, yeah, it's because he got sick during the team flight to Paris whenever they played the Pacers. It was happening before that and happened after. And then the Monday after All-Star break, he went into the doctor, said that his shoulder was not feeling well, and then they found this. This is a big blow to him, big blow to the Spurs, but overall, this could end up being a good thing for the Spurs in the long run because you're going to, we're tanking the rest of the season. We're tanking the wrong way as well. Mitch Johnson, actually, here, we'll get to the next one first because I just want to diss on Mitch Johnson here in a second. Shams reported that Greg Popovich is to miss the rest of the season. Of course, he suffered a mild stroke, I believe in November. He's been out since then. His future is in question. This is very disappointing news. Pop, in my opinion, Pop's the best coach of all time. And it's weird not seeing him on the sideline for the Spurs. He is still very invested in the team. He's shown up to the facilities and everything. He's on the phone with Mitch. Mitch Johnson has said in interviews that he's on the phone with him basically after every game, just trying to give him pointers and stuff. And he's still very connected with the players. I know him and Wemby have been connected, especially after this happened. But if Pop is not going, if his future is actually in question and he does not return, we have to find a new head coach because Mitch Johnson is not that. Mitch Johnson, going back to, we're tanking the wrong way. We're tanking the wrong way because, sorry that this is turning Spurs, but this is not how you should tank. Chris Paul has basically 2 months left on his contract. He's 40 years old. He's going to be a free agent. Maybe he'll be back. Probably not, depending on how much money he wants. And if another team wants him to be a starter. But he is still starting next to De'Aaron Fox, which makes zero sense because behind him we don't have a backup point guard. So there's no point guard whenever they're both off the floor. Yeah. Which makes zero sense. And Stephon Castle in the last 3 games has played last night in a loss to the Pelicans, second loss to the Pelicans in the last week, 13-win Pelicans, by the way. He played a little over 10 minutes in the game, off the bench. A few games ago, I believe it was also against the Pelicans. No, it was against the Pistons. He actually had a really good game against the Pelicans in between that, because we played the Pelicans back-to-back. The Pistons, he played like 13 minutes off the bench. You'd think that if you're going to, just tank the season, you would want Castle and Fox together in the backcourt learning how to play. And you want to see Stephon Castle, what he can do. Yeah. Not just because I want him to win Rookie of the Year, but I want him to he's going to be a star later in his career. He has all the tools to be one. But you can't play him 10 minutes off the bench. Yeah. Especially for Chris Paul. If you've listened to this for long, I could not stand Chris Paul. And that's how most people are. People can't stand Chris Paul unless he's on your favorite team. Ever since Paul came to San Antonio in the offseason, I've grown to somewhat like Chris Paul. He's a great player. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's one of the best point guards of all time. Arguably a top 3 point guard of all time. He just passed. He's second all time in steals now. He did that against the Suns last week. So congrats to him. He'll finish as second because nobody will ever top John Stockton's record, just like nobody will ever top John Stockton's assist record, which Chris Paul is second in that as well. But he's 40. He's probably not going to be on the team next year. Castle's going to be a major part of this team for the future. And
you want to get playtime on his belt. You get used to everybody.
Yeah. You also got to find a center. We're starting Bismack Biyombo. I kind of forgot Bismack Biyombo was even a player until we signed him. Dude hasn't played in like 3 years. I still remember that playoff run with the Raptors. In that one playoff series, that one playoff game, he had like 12 blocks or something like that. And then the next year, the Magic gave him a contract that was very, very stupid, and I'm pretty sure they ended up cutting him. Because he just didn't work out.
The only team I know Bismack Biyombo on is the Hornets.
Yeah, he was on the Hornets after the because it was Raptors, Magic, Hornets.
He actually played pretty well at the Hornets.
Yeah. Because he was like the star of the team.
Yeah.
Last night was the first game, well, I guess 2 nights ago whenever you listen to this, was the first game Luka played against his former team in the Mavericks. It was in LA. Cannot wait for it to be in Dallas. I believe it's towards the end of March that happens. But Luka dominated in the first game against the Mavericks, scored 19 points, had 15 rebounds, and 12 assists. He also became the third player ever to record a triple-double against every other franchise. Of course, he joins his teammate, LeBron James, to do that. And the other one is, of course, the triple-double king, Russell Westbrook. So, congrats to Luka. This is amazing that he's already done this.
Him and LeBron have a good connection already, too.
Yeah. Like, the Lakers are going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The only bad thing is they need a big man, and they have to find a big man in the offseason. I mean, they would have had Mark Williams, but I don't even want to go into the Mark Williams thing because the Lakers are saying he failed the physical. Mark Williams is saying that, he didn't fail the physical and the Lakers just didn't want him and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm so tired of hearing about it.
He said, she said thing. He said, he
said. And it's amazing that, since then Mark Williams played in 2 games.
Yeah.
Because he's hurt.
His career just needs...
He's a great player.
Yeah.
He just...
played about 5 games and he's injured.
Yeah. The Heat are going to be without Nikola Jovic for the next 4 weeks. He suffered a broken hand. This is a huge loss for them. They have been terrible since the Jimmy Butler trade. I believe they're 1-6 since the Jimmy Butler trade. I mean, they're not a good. Andrew Wiggins has been great with them so far. Of course, he was the main guy they got back from the Warriors in the Butler deal, but it just hasn't come through the way the Heat want. Of course, they're gonna look in the offseason to completely revamp this lineup. But Nikola Jovic is a really good young player. He's going to be a key player to their future. So this is a tough break for them. The Timberwolves signed Jalen Clark to a standard contract today. He's actually been starting with both their front court guys, Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert, injured. So this is a good thing for him. They also signed Bones Highland to a 2-way contract. Remember, Bones was traded to the Hawks as part of the Bogdanovich deal. At the deadline, the Hawks then cut him, which was very surprising.
Yeah. He's actually good.
I remember him with the Nuggets, and he was great. And then as soon as he got traded from there, he just
fell off.
So hopefully he'll be able to. I mean, a 2-way deal. He's not gonna get much playing time with the Timberwolves, but especially with their backcourt. But maybe he'll be able to revitalize his career in Minnesota. The Eastern Conference standings, the Cavaliers are 48-10. They have won 8 consecutive games. The Celtics have won 6 straight. They're playing the Pistons right now. They're 6 games back of the Cavaliers. In the East, talking about the Pistons, they're on a 7-game win streak. I believe this is the first time they've won 7 straight games since 2014-15, which just tells you how long the Pistons have been a bad team.
Who was even on that team?
No idea.
That was before Blake, right?
That was well before Blake.
Okay.
Blake was like 2018-19.
Oh.
Blake Griffin's one great year with the Pistons before his career just...
Yeah.
Before he went to the Celtics.
I forgot he was a Celtic. Really forgot he was. Probably didn't play very much.
Yeah. The Pistons are now only 1 game back of the Pacers for the 4th seed. This is amazing. I mean, the Pistons were the worst team of basketball last year.
Yeah.
They've been the worst team of basketball for the last 2 years. It's amazing what Cade Cunningham is doing. It's amazing what the rest of the team is doing. I mean, you have the veteran additions that they had. I mean, they traded for... they made the questionable trade to trade Quentin Grimes to the Mavericks in the offseason for Tim Hardaway Jr., but Tim Hardaway Jr. has been great. Of course... Tobias Harris has been a solid pickup for him, and nobody talks about Tobias Harris. But he's a really solid player. He's not a star player.
He's a great role player.
Yeah. And then you got the guys off the bench. You have the rest of the young core, and they're also doing this without Jaden Ivey, which is even more impressive.
Yeah. And Dorn's been out for a little bit.
Yeah. And then Malik Beasley could win 6th Man of the Year. He's having a great season. He's going to set the record for the most 3-pointers in a season in Pistons history, which is amazing.
Yeah, they had some good players.
Yeah.
Like Isaiah Thomas. They didn't really shoot threes back then, though.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, Whip Hamilton. Did Whip Hamilton shoot a lot of threes? I don't know. That's Pistons. I don't really know too much about the Pistons.
Nobody does because they were a poverty organization since they won their last title.
Yeah.
The only guy you know is Ben Wallace. You love him.
I do love Ben Wallace.
On the opposite side of the spectrum, while the Pistons have won 7 straight games, the 76ers have lost 8 straight games. They're playing the Knicks right now. They're without Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid could end up missing the rest of the season. Shams reported earlier this week that his knee injury is not healing as they had hoped, so they may have to go in and do surgery. And I believe one of the surgeries that I saw that they could end up doing is where they break a bone in his hip or in his knee, around his knee, to get like the I don't know,
femur?
I don't know, but to get like the swelling down and then completely try to redo his
knee.
Yeah,
his patella.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's only 3 bones in the leg, 3 massive ones. You got the femur, the tibia, and fibula. Most likely, it's gonna be the femur because it is the strongest bone in the body.
Either way,
it's career-altering.
I mean, he's got to do something. He doesn't play. For them against the Knicks tonight, they're without him. They're without, I mean, Kyle Lowry's still out. They're without, Jared McCain's out the rest of the season, of course.
He was.
I mean, they're without Paul George is returning tonight, but Paul George has not been himself. He made the announcement today that he is going to stop focusing on the podcast and actually try to help the 76ers, make the playoffs, which, I mean, right now they're well outside. They've actually fallen below, I believe they're 12th in the East now. I believe I saw that today because I was very surprised at that.
Willie Max is the only one that's shown that.
And they're 12th. They're below the Brooklyn Nets right now in the stands. Of course, the Bulls are above them. I mean, you look at the teams in the East, at the bottom of the East, and it's like the 3 teams, 8, 9, and 10, the Hawks are trying to tank.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be trying to tank. They shouldn't try to tank for their own good because we have their pick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they clearly made that decision at the deadline by trading away, everybody besides Trae Young, and the rest of their team's hurt. You have the Heat, who are basically tanking right now because they just can't figure things out with the new lineup. I mean, they're still probably going to be a play-in team. And then you have the Bulls, who are trying their hardest to tank games, but they can't because they're still 10th in the West. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. 3-7 in their last 10 games, and they still have a 1.5 game lead over the Nets, who are also trying to tank. Then you have the Sixers, who can't win a game because nobody's healthy. And then the rest of the Raptors, Hornets, and Wizards. The Raptors and Hornets are bad. The Wizards are just
horrible.
There's not even a word to explain the Wizards at this point.
Dog crap.
But for the 76ers, is it time in the offseason, if they are not able to make a play-in run, which
most likely
you could say that they could if they get some players back, if Paul George learns how to play the game of basketball again, if Joel Embiid can stay on the court, which is a very big if.
Yeah.
If they're not able to, or even if they are able to and they get knocked out in the play-in tournament, not even make it to the 7th or 8th seed, is it time for them to blow it up?
Yeah, it's been time. It's been time for about 2 years because they can't win any playoff games. Joel Embiid's not your future. It's Maxey. Maxey's your future. You get rid of him, Embiid. No one's going to take his contract, most likely.
According to Bovada Sportsbook, if anybody uses them, good for you. I use them a lot for an athlon for writing. The Raptors are the favorite to land them. I don't see the Raptors actually wanting them. And then the Suns are also up there. The Hawks are up there. And I don't remember who the 4th team was. But there's... I mean, before this season, the Warriors were interested in them. They're not going to be able to afford them now with Butler. And also, there's growing speculation that they're going to be in on Durant in the offseason because Durant was on Draymond Green's podcast today, which is very weird since, they don't have the best relationship. But and Durant said that he vetoed the midseason trade to the Warriors because he didn't want to get traded in the middle of the year and then reacclimate himself on a new team
which so pretty much sounds like he wants to go to Louisville.
And he said that, we'll try again in the offseason, which he knows the Suns are trading.
Yeah.
Because the Suns are, it's not even, we're going to talk about the Suns here in a second, like we have basically every week. Because it's a fascinating team to talk with how bad they are.
The what should have.
But there's not many teams around the league that are going to be willing to take on Embiid's contract, especially with his knee injury now. And I mean, he's been dealing with the same knee injury for seems like the last 2 seasons. But it is time for the Sixers to blow it up. I think they should have blown it up last year. They shouldn't have went after Paul George. I thought Paul George would be much better than he has been.
Yeah.
But I mean, you rebuild around Max, you rebuild around McCain. Other than that, you don't really have a lot.
Start with scratch again.
Yeah. But you're no longer trusting the process because the process is over. The process was over as soon as they, Harden demanded out, and then they got rid of Ben Simmons. It was basically over. They've tried to make runs, but it hasn't worked.
They just need a tank this year. Get a center or power forward.
The thing is, they do have to tank this season because the Oklahoma City Thunder own their first round pick.
Yeah,
and I believe it's top 4 protected. So they desperately need to tank the rest of the season to actually keep their pick.
Yeah,
or they're going to give a solid lottery pick to the Thunder, who don't need it.
Yeah, but they do desperately.
But I mean, if you're Sam Presti of the Thunder, you're thinking, try and make that final play-in because you're not going to make it out. You're probably not going to make it out of the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
Let alone make it past the first round of the playoffs, and then the Thunder are going to have a great pick and an absolutely loaded 2025 class to add another great young player to their already dominant team. Talking about the Thunder, they lead the West by 8.5 games. They did have a terrible loss to the Timberwolves earlier this week on Monday. They blew a 25-point lead in the fourth quarter, lost in overtime. I believe that is the exact loss the Thunder needed because they have dominated their way through the season. Like, it's not even close. They have the best net rating of any team ever. Yeah. They're on pace to have that, which is
insane to think about.
Amazing to think about. I mean, you have the 73-9 Warriors. You have the Bulls. I mean, the 90s Bulls dominated every team. Yeah. It wasn't close.
Celtics when they all...
Now you have the Thunder who are doing the same thing. They needed that loss where it's like...
Bring them back down to earth.
Yeah. And I think it'll help them. I actually wrote an article about this right after it happened. They have an 8.5 game lead over the Grizzlies and Nuggets. Nuggets have been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. The Grizz have been a little banged up a little bit. They've gotten to a recent cold streak, but they're still a solid team. One of the hottest teams in the league right now, though, is the Golden State Warriors. They've had 4 consecutive wins. Since Butler has joined their team, they only have 1 loss. He's fitting in really well next to Curry. I believe the Warriors are going to be a major playoff factor. Like, nobody wants to play them in the playoffs. Like, if you're a first-round team, and, they're going to be a play-in team.
Yeah, they'll be a low seed. I mean, high seed.
You don't want, if you're the 1 or 2 seed, if I'm the Thunder or, the Grizzlies and Nuggets, whoever gets that 2 seed, because the Thunder are locked in the first seed unless something happens. I don't want to face them in the first round because...
You got Coin.
I'm going off of this. I'm completely agreeing. I believe it was Boogie Cousins that said this earlier this week on FanDuel's Run It Back show. I did an article about it, but I agreed completely because he said you have Curry, who's a great playoff performer, and then Butler. I mean, Butler's an average regular season player, but as soon as playoffs,
he becomes Michael Jordan.
Yeah. And now you have them both on the same team. You have Draymond, who basically the whole team turns up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I would not want to face them. And they've turned a terrible season into one where they could end up having a chance to extend their dynasty. On the opposite side, one that they're never going to have a dynasty. It seems like the Phoenix Suns have dropped 8 of their last 10 games. They sit 2.5 games behind the Kings for the 10th and final play-in spot in the West. Do you think they make the playoffs?
No,
I don't either. I don't get how they're this bad. I mean, they put Bradley Beal back in the starting lineup earlier this week. It's worked out fine. They lost last night to the Grizzlies, 151 to 148 in overtime. It was the first time since 1990 that they had 5 different players score 20 or more points in a game, and they still lost. Officiating was a big problem with that game, though, like Devin Booker said after the game. But it's been really bad for the Suns, and it's not going to get better. And in the offseason, they have to blow it up.
Yeah.
And the bad thing is finding a trade for Durant's going to be easy. Like, there's 29 other teams that would love to add KD. Yeah. Although he's 36 years old, still a great player.
Beal, on the other hand,
has a no-trade clause, and he has a really bad he's had a solid season. Like, you can't just say he's just been complete ass. Yeah. You can't say it. He's had a really good year. It's just not the year that somebody should have when they're making, $51 million. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting. I think they trade both of them. They try to trade both of them.
They have to.
They got to keep Devin Booker.
It's the only guy that's untouchable.
Yeah. Although he has not had the best season either, shooting the ball. Yeah. He's been really down with his percentages. That's all for the NBA. We'll move on to the MLB, where the Nationals re-signed Kyle Finnegan. I didn't realize he was still unsigned, to be honest. Yeah. I think people forget that. I'm pretty sure he was second or third last year behind the Cardinals' Ryan Helsley. Yeah. For saves. He was great. And the Nationals signed him to a 1-year, I believe, $6-point-something million contract, so a very cheap deal. Nationals also had a great start to spring training until today, where they lost their first game to the Astros. But the Cubs, to start spring training, are 6-0-1. They tied today with the Giants. And the Royals are 4-1. Have you watched any spring training?
No, not yet. I have not, actually, surprisingly.
I watched the first game between the Dodgers and Cubs last Thursday because it was the first game. I made the mistake of turning it on like in the 6th inning, and I could not name one player on that field. They every time a new guy would come to bat, I'm like, who the hell is this? I did watch a little bit of the Nationals-Astros game last week. Other than that, I haven't watched much. We will give our MLB predictions in 2 weeks, so be prepared for that. Because that is when it's going to be a week ahead of the Tokyo series. Remember that opening day isn't actually until the end of March, but the Tokyo series happens, I believe, March 18th. It begins between the Cubs and the Mets, and that is the official start of the official unofficial. It's not opening day, but it's the start of the regular season. Yeah. So we will give our predictions in 2 weeks. This is going to be a very interesting season to predict, to say the least. Also, spring training, Juan Soto homered in his first at bat as a Met. Yeah. If anybody cares. He should still be a National. Moving on to college basketball, the new rankings dropped this week. Auburn stays number 1. Duke moved up to 2. Florida dropped to 3. They're going to drop even more next week. They were upset by Georgia on Tuesday, and it wasn't really close. 4 is Houston, 5 Tennessee, 6 Alabama, 7 St. John's continues their great season. It's great to see Rick Pitino and that team playing great. Number 8 is Michigan State. They moved up 6 spots. Number 9, Iowa State. 10 is Texas Tech. Texas A&M dropped down 5 spots to 12. Clemson up 5 spots to 13. Louisville up 6 spots to 19. Purdue down 7 spots to 20. And Marquette down 5 spots to 21. I was very surprised that Wisconsin stayed at 11. We blew I think it was an 18-point lead on Saturday to Oregon and lost in overtime. Very disappointing. We should be a top 10 team.
All I can say is March Madness should be really good this year.
It is. Kansas dropped from the rankings for the first time since February of 2021. They entered as a preseason number 1. They have had a terrible season. They've had a terrible, not really a terrible season.
Just not as good as everyone thought.
Yeah, they've had a terrible stretch. They've been upset like their last 3 games. They do have a huge matchup next week that could completely turn their season around. But they're not the team. I mean, you think about the teams that were in the top 5 before the season. Kansas isn't ranked. UConn isn't ranked. Gonzaga isn't ranked. This tells you how the preseason does not matter.
Yeah.
The preseason rankings don't matter. The best games this week, there are a ton, especially on Saturday. There's a quadruple header on Saturday. On Saturday, number 1, Auburn versus number 17, Kentucky. Also, number 6, Alabama versus number 5, Tennessee. Number 12, Texas A&M, and number 3, Florida. And then number 22, Arizona at number 9, Iowa State. On Sunday, a big game in the Big Ten between my number 11, Wisconsin Badgers, and the number 8, Michigan State Spartans. On Monday is the game where Kansas could get their season back on track. Because they're on the road to take on number 4, Houston. That would be a major win if they're able to do that, because Houston's one of the best teams in the country. On Tuesday, number 1, Auburn versus number 12, Texas A&M, and also number 25, BYU, who was they beat Arizona. They upset Arizona last week. BYU's a very good team. Of course, they're led by I think this is how you say his name, Igor Dimin. I think that's how you say his name. He's predicted to be a lottery pick in the upcoming NBA draft. He's a great player. BYU has a really good team. Of course, next year they're going to be even better because they're going to get A.J. Dybonsa, who is projected to be the first pick in the 2026 draft. And then the 25 BYU plays at number 9 Iowa State on Tuesday. Then next Wednesday, a big game, number 3 Florida versus number 6 Alabama. Of course, Florida won't be ranked 3rd by that time. Of course, conference championship games begin March 10th, or the conference championship tournaments begin March 10th. So we are creeping up on March Madness. I can't wait for I got to check this because our baseball predictions and March Madness cannot be the same day. Or that will be. I'm not trying to edit a 2-hour-long episode. Yeah. So they cannot be the same. So I will check that. We may be doing MLB predictions next week. Yeah. Moving on to other sports, Brian Campbell defeated, I'm going to botch his name, Aldrich Potgieter. I don't know if that's actually how you say his name. He beat him in a playoff to win the Mexico Championship. The Cognizant Classic is this weekend. Also, some big news out of golf. Liv did not re-sign Bryson DeChambeau. He wanted a $280 million extension. Liv said, screw you. So it is expected that Bryson will be returning to the PGA next season, which is going to be very interesting. Yeah. Christopher Bell won at Atlanta in a controversial finish. NASCAR shouldn't have threw the yellow, but we're not going to get into that because I don't want to scream. So, COTA is this weekend, or Circuit of the Americas. Who wins?
Shane Van Gisbergen.
I'm also going with Shane Van Gisbergen. It's a road course. He's the best road course racer in NASCAR. Yeah.
I would say Tyler Reddick will be the next pick for me.
My next pick would be it'd be Kyle Larson. Yeah. If he doesn't get taken out. Yeah. IndyCar kicks off their new season at St. Petersburg on Sunday on Fox. Remember, it was on Fox. It's not on ESPN or ABC anymore. It's completely on Fox. So, who wins the opening race of the IndyCar season?
Oh man, this is difficult. I don't watch IndyCar forever. I'm just gonna go with the pretty obvious one and Joseph Newgarden.
Of course you are. Yeah.
But Alex Palou wins the championship.
Again?
Yeah. And then he goes F1 after that.
I'm gonna go with I don't even know.
Takuma Sato.
No, I don't even think Takuma Sato still has a ride.
He might not. Alexander Rossi.
I was gonna say Alexander Rossi. I'm not for sure if he has a ride anymore. To be honest, I'm gonna go safe pick Scott Dixon. I know he still has a ride.
Yeah, well, of course.
he's arguably the best driver in IndyCar history.
Yeah.
The F1 season starts off in 2 weeks. They had their first practice today. Lando Norris led practice, so it looks like McLaren is back once again. Also, it was very interesting to see Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari. Yeah, it's a weird sight.
Yeah.
At the WNBA level, Diana Taurasi announced her retirement from the league after 20 seasons. Of course, Diana Taurasi won 3 titles, won 6 Olympic gold medals. She's the WNBA's leading scorer all time, and she did it all with one team, the Phoenix Mercury. So congratulations to, I think Diana Taurasi is the best player in WNBA history. So congratulations to her on a great career.
The only one I think they can catch her is Asia Wilson.
Not say Caitlin Clark.
Not yet. I mean, statistically, Asia Wilson's the closest one. That's still playing.
I mean, if you look at the history, though, I mean, you got to say Sue Bird's up there.
Yeah, of course. And
there's a lot of others.
Yeah. But active, it's next in line is probably Asia Wilson.
Yeah.
She's what, freaking 4-time MVP or something like that?
I don't know. Something like that. That's all I have. You have anything else?
Baseball is on the verge. Very excited.
Baseball's already here.
Well, opening day.
We're a month away. A little less than a month away. I believe it's the 25th when it gets started. Thank you guys for listening. Come back here next week. And as always, peace.